and in towards that playoff season. So we'll have to see how these two can adapt to it and how they can find their win here today. Bans are going to be kicking off the first phase of this draft phase for game number 1. As Ryze and LeBlanc are your first two. Rumble going to be following shortly thereafter, and Shen coming out as well. A lot of solo lane focus.
A lot of focus on those top laners as well here. Rumble, considered top tier at the moment. Definitely the magic damage dealing top laner that's not a tank. That's in the meta at the moment. So a lot of people regard him as S tier.
One thing that's going to be interesting to see this match as well. We talk about Piglet making his role swap. We talk about how that's really changing things up for Liquid. At the same time, he's going to be going up against Froggen in this game, so we'll have to see how he can do as someone who's freshly made this role swap up against someone who's been playing mid for quite a long time.
Yep. And I think that another thing, too, is you have to actually be used to the Anivia matchup and always have that in the back of your head. Because if Froggen can pull out an Anivia up against whatever Piglet's going to play, then that could be a bit of a curveball there because we talked about it. He plays a lot of mid in solo queue. He's played it for a long time. Even back before he joined SK Telecom T1, he was a mid laner. And of course, well, I guess they considered Faker a little bit better at the time. We'll see how that actually pans out. Piglet regards himself very highly. But that means he's still practiced, but does he know those matchups?
Echo Fox going to pick up Rengar first and foremost in this draft. We've seen a couple of NA Rengars so far over the weekend, but Akaadian is a player who is known for the champion, known for his proficiency on it. So we'll have to see if he can manage to clean that record up a little bit.
Yeah.
Show us what the NA Rengars are really made of.
So there's NA Rengars, and then there's one-trick Rengars.
There's NA Rengar.
Right, there's NA Rengar. Rengar. Yeah, that's what Akaadian is in my mind. He's the NA Rengar. He played one yesterday. Actually had a pretty good showing on it, but it did go downhill with the team composition a little bit later in the game. But I do want to talk about Lourlo here, locking in the Camille. Don't know where that'll go because it is a flex pick. We all know that Gates played it in the bottom lane. But Lourlo was kind of the unsung hero in the games. Piglet had a 20 kill, 4 death, 19 assist match. But Lourlo was 8 kills, 3 deaths, 29 assists. So Lourlo did as well as Piglet in those matches.
Yeah, they both went completely crazy, so we cannot count this guy out of things. Echo Fox's response to that very capable fighter of Camille in the top lane is going to be another very capable fighter that we've seen come into popularity since the most recent patch. Yep. Renekton going to be picked up for them, and AShe as well. Yeah, Renekton was being played a little bit already in the LCK, and then the Black Cleaver changes happened, and everybody's like, oh, this is a great champion. More HP for him, less AD on it, but it's cheaper, so you start getting to your other items faster. It's 100 gold faster, but it's still a gold-efficient item, a little bit more than it was before, but the HP is really what he needed. And I talked about, we're doing the hat trick of all 3 matches this week together. Talked about how I play a lot of Camille. Her worst matchups are things that weren't really meta, like Darius, Tryndamere, Renekton, things that bully her early, because she's not a lane bully. Right. She's somebody who dominates with dives and gets to your backline, but she doesn't really dominate the laning phase. Right, if you're not afraid of being dove onto by this champion, if you're just going to stand there and say, okay, I'll fight you, that's fine, it's not exactly what Camille's looking for. The other 2 picks going to be going over to Liquid in the first round of the picking phase. Well, the first half of the picking phase, I guess I should say, are going to be Kha'Zix and Karma. So we're going to have the Rengar-Kha'Zix classic matchup between those two, the lore intense dynamic as the second part of the bans has begun. And we're going to see Zyra and Nami removed by Liquid, focusing onto that support role, while Jhin is taken out of the pool by Echo Fox. That's going to remove all 3 top-tier AD carries now, with AShe chosen and Varus and Jhin both banned. Cassiopeia is going to be the final ban away from Fox's game. Yep. Mid lane pool pinched slightly, just the top tier a little bit out of there. Ryze, you also have the removal of LeBlanc and then Cassiopeia. So we'll see what Piglet ends up going with. I assume you last pick for your mid laner who's new to the role. Ezreal, also quite a good champion. Since the Fervor buffs and the nerfs to Warlords, he's actually still quite good. And he's been built Ninja Tabi and feels really good about doing so. And that's especially helpful versus a champion like Rengar, versus a champion that it feels a little bit worse to play one of those immobile AD carries like your AShe or your Jhin or your Varus into. The Ezreal can sometimes be the answer to that, keep yourself alive a little bit better. As Echo Fox thinking about their own AD carry, going to go ahead and lock in the support instead. Tahm Kench going to be picked up. Yeah, Tahm Kench prevents dives, prevents a lot of... yeah, I assume they go with the Anivia. It prevents. They already had the AShe anyway. I don't know why they were thinking about the extra AD carry. Exactly. Oh, the Lux as well might not be bad here. He played it against Team Liquid Academy previously. Ahri is what has been played as well. Okay. All right. He's going to go for it. We're going to see the Ahri locked in. Froggen, I believe, played an Ahri game yesterday.
Yes, he did in their game 1 against Cloud9. That was the one where they had Shen, Rengar, and Ahri, and there weren't really any combinations of Shen ultiing onto the Ahri, but Froggen did have a good showing on that champion.
The dive threat from Echo Fox is real right now. You've got a Renekton and a Rengar and an Ahri that all want to get into the back of your team's lines and just tear them apart.
All right. Yeah, they have a lot of dive, but can you dive what just goes down and dives into a pool?
That'll be a little bit tricky.
It's hard.
That'll be a little bit tricky. Vlad locked in on the side of Team Liquid. Piglet going to be piloting that one this game, and it rounds out their roster.
I'm still going to wait on this because I don't know if that's a top lane Vladimir. Could be a mid lane Vladimir. I don't assume it's a mid lane Camille, but it has happened before. But I do think it's Vladimir. But just so I'm not spending 20 seconds talking about it.
Right. We got to wait and see, just kind of bide our time a little bit, hold on here. But
yeah, it's probably mid lane. He has the Ghost already. You wouldn't take that on Camille most likely. And so he's going to go up against the Ahri and play a pretty safe matchup. But the problem here is that Ahri's love taking Ignite, and they will take Ignite into the mid lane.
Now, as a dirty Camille picker, I expect you to know the answer to this question. If somebody gets hit by the Hextech ultimatum, and then the target is gobbled up by the Tahm Kench, he can carry them out of the ultimatum.
No.
He cannot?
No. He spits them out, and then they snap back into it. The Hextech ultimatum, you cannot leave by any means.
Not even the Tahm Kench Express.
Unless Camille leaves first. You can blast
Interesting.
You can blast cone her out, and she'll fly out, and it'll end, things like that. But even if Zed ulties you, and his shadow is a screen away, you ulti him, he tries to snap back to the shadow, he ends up on the side of your Hextech ultimatum.
So there's no way for Tahm Kench to get Keith's Ashe out of there.
He can hold him.
He can hold him. He can try to protect him while he's inside, or he might be able to eat the Camille and spit her outside of the Hextech ultimatum.
If he does get those full stacks on her, yes.
All right. Interesting interaction. See, I wouldn't have known that. That's why we've got this combined knowledge here.
Yeah.
Making it all possible. But we're loading on to Summoner's Rift for game number 1 between Echo Fox and Team Liquid. A best of 3 to decide who's going to start clawing their way out of the bottom of the ladder and get up there closer and closer towards those playoff spots.
Yeah, like you were saying, our combined knowledge, I always play what's new. I always play, like Camille comes out, I'll play that for a whole bunch. I've played a ton of the New York, etc., just in case it pops up.
Look at you making your informed decisions based around your professional position, where I just play Purple Scorpions.
It doesn't make you look good in solo queue when you're sitting around like D4 because you're playing all this new
because you just play all the new stuff all the time. If it makes you feel better, you still get made fun of even if you climb up to D1 because you only play Skarner.
That's true.
Yeah, it's a good time. Either way, Echo Fox setting up shop as a 5-man brush camp.
Well, it may be an invade here. They brought Looper along, but okay, there you go. Because he's walking away. It was just a defense here. They thought there was going to be an aggressive invade, which is not uncommon when you have a Camille. Camille can take E level 1 and not feel bad about it as long as he gets in there. But Lourlo has already put a skill into the W.
Yeah, he has no interest in going for the invade now. He's pretty much just said himself, hey, I'm going to watch the entrance, and then I'm going to go straight to lane.
Yep, also got Longsword 3 potions. I assume it's a Tiamat rush. Could be a phase into the Trinity Force, but you'll typically go for the Tiamat because Camille doesn't have natural wave clear. Her tactical sweep has too long of a cooldown, too high of a mana cost, and not enough damage, it's percent HP, to actually clear out minion waves effectively. So you rush the Tiamat, and then you get yourself to the Trinity Force as soon as possible afterwards.
And usually the Sheen is prioritized in that Trinity Force, and then because of the synergy with Precision Protocol, the ability to convert the Spellblade into the true damage.
Yeah, that's actually insane that when you hit level 18, the true damage is actually the whole thing. So it's 100% of it, and it actually converts the Trinity Force into it too. And Keith, that's a little bit of a misplay there. You shouldn't be standing in the minion wave, let alone in front of your caster minions like that when you're up against the Karma, because that's the double whammy. Matt gets to use the Mantra Q and hit the wave for damage and push it, and he gets to hit Keith. So it's a big misplay there, especially when you're playing a double ranged into a melee support.
Right. Tahm Kench is always going to have problems against things like the Karmas and the Namis and the stuff that's just going to bully him around in lane. So you've got to take every advantage you can find to avoid those kinds of situations. And in general, I'm kind of going to be watching both AD carries this series, because these are two guys. We talked about how Youngbin didn't have the most impressive start with Team Liquid, and we also haven't seen just this phenomenal performance out of Keith so far this entire split. So both these guys are generally considered not among the greatest.
Yeah, they're definitely AD carries that people think are near the bottom of the standings. I'm interested right now in what ReignOver's doing because it's a full red side clear. Doesn't have enough mana. I assume he goes for a back after this. It's a really unhealthy clear.
Yeah, he's got 150 HP. I don't see him accomplishing anything else.
It's strange. The Raptors start has actually thrown off a lot of junglers in terms of their routing because Akaadian is now actually pretty decently ahead. ReignOver will have his blue buff for a little bit longer, but it'll throw off the blue buff timer of when you hand it to your mid laner the second time.
Right.
But it is a Vladimir, so it doesn't really matter too much in that category.
Right, it's not something like a Cassiopeia or a Ryze. It's really getting a lot out of the resource system that the blue enables. Instead, he's just going to be grabbing the cooldowns that would otherwise be available.
Yep, and we'll see if Lourlo in this top lane puts 3 points into the tactical sweep. It's for the sustain in the lane. It actually keeps you quite healthy as well, Camille. So you have a passable lane phase that does have kill potential and gank assist. But she really spikes at 2 items from what I've noticed.
And you're up against a Renekton. You're up against somebody who's going to have plenty of heals of his own, so you're not going to feel bad about going into a tactical sweep because you need to stay even with him.
Exactly. You need to stay even with him, and he's just going to truck you otherwise. And I'm looking at a Akaadian. Looks like he's going for the Scuttle Crab on the bottom side, trying to keep it safe, or at least just waiting.
Yeah, it looks like he's waiting for ReignOver.
Yeah, I don't think ReignOver's going to come by anytime soon, though. And if he does, ReignOver will be pretty even in level.
Yep, Akaadian just deciding, all right, you're not going to be showing up. I guess I'll just take it myself. Heading down towards this bottom side, but the ward will spot him out, and he just decides that there's not really anything to accomplish here. Gate and Keith are now shoving the wave back towards their opponents, so Akaadian's timing just not capable of allowing him to do anything down here, at least right now.
Yeah, but they saw him go down towards his Krugs. ReignOver walks in, clears out the ward, pops that. He'll see that Akaadian's there, and now does he have enough time to actually do the Raptors? He does. He'll start doing them, and Piglet has mid lane pressure.
ReignOver just looking to at least steal that big one away however he can. Go for the little ones afterwards. He'll get all but 2 of them by the time
ReignOver might be caught here.
Up.
Ahri has inside track. If Froggen actually comes here...
Nope, Froggen doesn't make it over in time. ReignOver's going to be able to get himself out, steals everything except the last remaining chicken. Piglet going to go ahead and pop that Sanguine pool, but Froggen still catches him with the back end of the orb.
It's the Raptor fight. Piglet's half HP. They saw that ReignOver was half HP. Akaadian keeps using the Q to get himself there faster. Now he's going to try to go after ReignOver, who's right there.
Finds him in the brush. ReignOver going to be forced to jump away. Akaadian definitely getting the better of that trade, and they know they can't contest these any longer. So even though ReignOver was able to steal away the chickens from Akaadian, Akaadian will now return the favor.
Exactly. You had 2 options there. It was either Froggen collapsed earlier onto ReignOver and you get the kill there, or Akaadian invades because he knows he's stronger because of the HP that got chunked out from ReignOver.
And I talked when we saw this pick locked in about Akaadian playing the Rengar compared to the other players in North America and how this has always been like kind of one of Akaadian's champs, right?
Yeah.
So I'm very, very interested to see what he's able to do with this as the game goes on, especially considering the struggles we've seen other players have on the champion. Going to be forced to flash away there from Lourlo. Did not want to be hit by that stun.
Yeah, and all he did is really pop the big Krug and take the small one, I believe. So he doesn't get the full camp, leaves a little bit of it for ReignOver, which does get ReignOver level 5, which would be the breakpoint you're looking for, is to keep him level 4 for a bit longer. But he went in when Looper was back, buying a Tiamat. So a little bit aggressive there from Akaadian, just trying to maximize his time and his pressure. But now he doesn't have a flash, and Lourlo hits 6, so Looper does have to be careful, because Camille gank assist is so easy to execute on. You can actually buffer the E, or buffer the R, while you're in the E, so as soon as you fly out, you will R them and connect.
And it's so very difficult to deal with that. Camille, by the way, did go for 3 points in the tactical sweep, exactly like we were expecting. More healing power in lane, more trading power early. Going to allow her to scale into that monster, hit that 2-item spike that you mentioned, where she really starts to shine, and she's really going to be that much more difficult to deal with.
Yeah, the percent HP of the tactical sweep and the heal based off of that is incredibly good to level up. And then the Q, the precision protocol, really matters when you have the Sheen, like you said, and also matters when you have more AD, so that the physical damage on it is multiplied.
Right, you don't feel good about it max, like putting points into it at levels 3, 4, and 5, but you know, you get to level 7, level 8, level 9, where you have those stats, you have the Sheen, then it's going to start to feel juicy.
Yeah, and the cooldown will go down as well, and then you have the Trinity Force with 20% more on top, so it's just full rotation, then it's about back up again. Akaadian, though, level 6. If he dedicates a gank to Lourlo, there is a lot of escape potential. You can E, just make sure you block her path, because she can actually E through champions on the first one, not the second, and look at that.
Froggen may want a piece of this too. Wards are put in place, though, a control ward in the tri-brush and also a ward in the top lane brushes.
Yeah, it's interesting because now the supports are coming off of their backs and going towards the mid lane here.
Looper utilizing the power of that Renekton and the power of his nearby allies to zone Lourlo completely off of his own turret, getting himself a advantage in farm as well as experience here.
Yeah, now they're collapsing onto red. I actually think this is, okay, good. Froggen canceled his recall. I was like, if Froggen backs, that's actually a misplay. But this is 4 people from Echo Fox or 3 people from Echo Fox to the 4 of TL, because here comes Karma. He's up here.
Oh, they got to be real careful about this one. Matt going to be jumped on. Froggen looking to make the moves. He's almost completely out of mana. Akaadian going to be burned out. Tries to jump himself back over the wall. Can't quite find the damage. First blood over to the Blood King himself. Vladimir. Piglet cashes in.
Piglet with the first blood there. He's down in CS. The lane's been a big struggle for him, but Matt is there. Matt helps him out, draws a lot of attention, and then turns out that they end up picking Akaadian because he didn't have that flash from earlier.
Good stuff from Liquid. Getting that extra body there was what they needed to make sure they came out on top.
Yeah, and you can see this is just 4 people here. Tahm Kench not even nearby. Froggen is hanging out, and he goes after Matt to try and blow up the squishy, but he doesn't have enough mana to continue this, and Matt blows the exhaust. Akaadian, okay. So the Rengar ulti ends up coming off of him, so he doesn't get the automatic crit, and you only crit the person that you have the eyes on. The closest person to you, the one that you have vision of, is the one that you will jump and get a crit on. Not if it's just somebody that you can see. That's not the closest one.
So not getting that crit prevented him from being able to have close to the amount of damage that he would have needed to secure that kill.
May have not been enough.
Yeah, it still might have not been enough even if he did get the crit, but not having it pretty much sealed his fate, as Matt still had flash available. You saw Akaadian burn his flash a few minutes ago when he was topside, having to run away from Lourlo. Without the extra ability to close that gap and follow that, he was donezo. And Liquid ends up grabbing themselves the first blood. However, they are still behind in gold overall.
Yeah, and a lot of that is Piglet in the mid lane with his CS deficit, and top lane. They have 2 losing lanes at the moment. So you see top about 200 back. Piglet's actually even now off of the first blood kill. And then in the jungle, it's even now as well. So it's pretty much just that top lane's deficit, as well as a little bit here for Keith over Youngbin.
Yeah, really big CS differences in both of those solo lanes right now, as they're just doing a great job out-farming their opponents early on. Froggen going to be past this blue buff. And we already mentioned how Piglet, like not having a blue buff on Vladimir, you lose some cooldowns. It's not the greatest thing in the world, but you know, you don't have mana to maintain. Froggen's going to get a lot more use out of having it.
Yeah, I actually think you hand this to either your Ezreal or you take it yourself as the Kha'Zix. Just because it's so much better to have there. I don't know.
Right. You can at least just spam your pin missiles the entire time. Keep yourself full HP.
Yeah, the super low Q as well, extra cooldown, and the fact that Taste Their Fear has, it's a small mana cost, like 25 mana. It's actually ridiculous, but you get to go do Infernal Drake and spam the Q with the evolved claws.
Keith does spot these guys out with the hawk shots, one into the other. TP is going to be channeled from both top laners. Arrow comes out. Matt's going to be connected onto Tahm Kench in the backline. Hextech ultimatum issued onto Froggen. Gate going to be forced to run away. The flash is used. Looper into the backline, looking to make the kill onto Matt. He has no flash, and Looper's got him. Still going to be looking for more as Youngbin finds himself in between 4. Not going to be happy about that.
Going in.
Akaadian goes over the wall, able to make it a double, and 1 for 3. Fox grabs their fight.
And they might get the Drake afterwards. We'll see. They have 5 people, or 4 people here. The one dead from Looper in the top. Echo Fox end up turning that one around, and that looked rather divided from TL, and it didn't look like they were all on the same page and whether they were going in or coming out.
Echo Fox takes a very happy prize in that Infernal Drake #1 for themselves. Going to be great on a Rengar and an Ahri and a Renekton. All these champions that we talked about diving in, doing the damage. Great addition.
And you can see here, Tahm Kench comes through right in the middle of everybody, but then they're focusing damage on him. Youngbin is throwing out the Qs, and Froggen doesn't stay locked up long enough. Lourlo doesn't have the damage either to take him out, and then the threat of Looper goes into the backline. He pulls everybody onto him, but still, Youngbin, a little bit too far forward there. He wasn't with the rest of the team.
He was way separated from the rest of Team Liquid, and as soon as Fox recognized that, they're like, oh, wait a second, 1v4 on the AD carry? That sounds like exactly what we're looking for.
Exactly.
Either way, they feel really good about that one. 2,087 damage from the Ahri. 0 damage whatsoever from Matt. Just was in a spot where he couldn't really do a whole lot to contribute to that one. Got himself popped pretty early, so never feel too good about that.
Yeah, Youngbin's build order is a little bit strange here. Didn't go for the phase for extra HP yet. And hold on, we'll talk about that in a second, because Lourlo top has people collapsing in on him.
Lourlo was forced to jump away, utilizing the hook shot. The ability is not maxed out yet, so he does not have that constant spamming of it for the cooldown.
Wants to eat him.
One more shot for the eat. There you go, spitting him right back out, and Keith ends up grabbing the kill for himself. Echo Fox managed to pick up the enemy top laner,
turret.
and now they're going to be grabbing that turret first blood too. The kills that Echo Fox have got for themselves have all been rewarded with objectives afterwards.
Yeah, they got the Infernal Drake, and then they got the top turret there, and that's first turret, and they actually have Froggen on the bottom side up against Youngbin to actually just hold this, and they don't get anything in response from TL.
And that's a level 8 Ezreal. He's got to be real careful about going too close to that Ahri, because you know she has the power to just pop him if she sees the opportunity for it. Looper and Akaadian now going to be starting up the Rift Herald.
Crazy that they're doing this. You don't see a lot of Rift Heralds.
Not many people care about it.
Not at all. If you have top side priority early on, which most people don't, they actually usually go for the bottom side for the Drake, and then that spills over into mid because you free up 2 people, but this is just, it is disgusting that Looper's going to have this in a matchup that he's already decimating. I was talking about it earlier where Camille's counters are usually things that you see in solo queue that you don't see in competitive play like the Tryndamere and stuff like that.
Yeah, the solo queue tricks. And right now, that Renekton is incredibly far ahead. He's got 120 farm compared to 89. He's got the Rift Herald that you just mentioned, going to be giving him that extra 1v1 capability. Lourlo does not want to be left alone against this guy right now, because it's not a winning matchup.
No. Camille needs to scale up, get to 2 items. You actually feel really bad when you don't have your Tiamat and you also don't have your Trinity Force. Those 2 items together really help, but then the Titanic or Ravenous, whichever he goes for, is that extra boost in power. And that's really when you see Camille being a terror, is those 2 items. Then from there, you can choose Sterix, or you can go for something like Dead Man's Plate and continue to go a little bit tankier.
Supports and AD carries now both hanging around mid lane, and this map is very lit up with wards right now.
Yeah, both teams actually having fairly good vision control, but I think that TL's a little bit too much on that top side right now. It's pushed in, and it's just going to be kind of a dead lane where the action's going to happen mid. Don't need those control wards on that top side for themselves. Fox, of course, do need that if they're going to have Looper split push and then join like this and try to threaten this mid turret.
Fox seeing what they can find onto this, down to about 1/3, 1/4 HP, putting dents in it slow and sure. Keith getting himself back after eating that Mystic shot.
Yeah, and I wanted to talk about Youngbin's build because the Stinger is really unusual. You'll usually see Manamune immediately after, the pickaxe even. Get yourself some extra AD, make sure that your Qs hit really hard, and then that you're stacking the Manamune even faster. I actually don't like the Stinger here at all. I think even if you wanted to go Phage, it's better because you have more HP against a Rengar and an Ahri, as opposed to attack speed.
Yeah, attack speed is just generally considered an less valuable stat on Ezreal compared to most AD carries. You're doing the damage to the Mystic shots.
It's got CDR, I'll give him that, but
right.
I think that the 10% from Sheen is already enough early, and you just want the more damage from your Qs to stay a good distance away from these gigantic assassins.
Well, maybe Youngbin is onto something that we are not. We'll have to see how it pays off for him, because right now he's 0-1. Still keeping up in farm, though, 131 to 135, so he hasn't slipped away in terms of that regard. But he's still got to get himself that Trinity Force ASAP, make sure that he gets that online, hits that power spike so he can be useful in these upcoming fights, one of which will likely be the Mountain Drake fight that'll come up here in a little over a minute if they decide that is worth colliding over.
Yeah, just finished his Trinity Force, so he will have that power spike back for it. And we'll see, checking top lane gold, 1,200, so Lourlo could go for the Tiamat right now, free up the inventory space, or he could go for the Sheen and start looking for the Trinity Force spike a little bit earlier than you normally get on Camille. But he already has 1 extra longsword in his inventory that he bought early on, which looked like he wanted to go for Tiamat, but then he got put behind and wanted to go for Phage instead.
All 20 summoner spells are also up and available right now, so the next time a fight breaks out, there's going to be a lot to go through to be able to make these kills happen. Both teams need to be aware of that, conscious of that, as they look to make these plays, find some opportunities onto each other.
Yep.
Keith's going to eat some damage there from Youngbin, but immediately return it with the Focus Fire.
The purchase is coming through as well. The Black Cleaver for Looper, the Trinity Force, like we had said earlier, for Youngbin, Essence Reaver, Relinomicon. Piglet not actually close enough to the second item just yet. So the Mountain Drake will come up while he's still on that 1 and components.
Youngbin jumping in pretty aggressively there with the Essence Shift, the Arcane Shift.
Yeah, Arcane Shift. Essence Flux.
Essence Flux. Essence. I knew Essence was in one of them.
Yeah, it's like
crisscrossed him there for a second. Anyway, the Rengar ultimate comes out. The arrow comes through and works its way onto Youngbin. Looper into the backline. They've got the kill onto the AD carry already. Gate gobbling up Froggen, looking to keep him safe, spits him right back into the Hextech ultimatum because he can't go anywhere else. ReignOver is going to be caught out next. Piglet will be number 3, and things are coming out great for Echo Fox. Piglet getting himself away, but only for the time being. Keith is delivered right on top of the Vlad. Almost gets himself killed, but almost is not going to count today, Zirene. It is a 0 for 3 going the way of Echo Fox.
Yeah, Echo Fox, they already had superior items. They had the Black Cleaver and Tiamat to the pieces of a Trinity Force for Lourlo, and then the TP came through. And I think, like, you can't really fault Youngbin too much for that, because that arrow, that was one of those ones that you go, come on.
That was an Angelina Jolie arrow. That thing got straight curved right past ReignOver.
We'll see it again, but it looks like it just barely hits him, because it goes by one person where it's like, okay, because it kind of like, it feels like it changed hitboxes while it was flying. It was like, nah, not this guy, that guy. Let's see this again here.
Here we
this
go.
Arrow goes past ReignOver, and yeah, it gets his foot there.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, you expect that to hit ReignOver there if it's going to hit anybody, because Youngbin still had flash available. And if he was just being extra careful, he would flash, but then he's flashing right into Looper's face.
And then Keith almost gets himself in a rough spot here, going in so close on Vlad.
I love how it's like, Gate's like, I'm delivering Keith by half HP. See, that's the thing, is it's Keith who clicks him. It's Keith who chose that.
Yeah.
Keith is the one who clicked on him.
Look at the damage in that fight, almost 4K from Looper's Renekton, and a grand total of 0 from Youngbin.
So the strange thing about Looper, the more I watch him, is people are like, all right, tanks are really good top lane. He always looks a little bit uncoordinated with his team on tanks, but when he's somebody who deals damage and actually is disruptive, when he's a backline tanky disruptor,
when he's a big threat,
like a Singe or a Renekton, that's when he actually looks best, in my opinion, is when he's on something that does damage, and the team can't just ignore him. On the enemy team, they have to be like, all right, this guy is going to do the most damage in the fight. He's got to do something about him.
Right, you got to deal with him as opposed to just being like, all right, he's going to see CS. He's really annoying. He's really obnoxious.
And I think that's the thing, is it's the difference between, I think he needs to play a champion that the enemy team has to play around, not a champion that his team has to play around. Right. When he's playing a tank, his team has to play around him. When he's playing Renekton or Singe, the enemy team has to play around him.
It's like the difference in goals between a Maokai and a Renekton jumping into the fight. A Maokai goes in, his goal is to disrupt and annoy you. A Renekton goes in, his goal is to reduce your health bar to 0. When Looper plays on those second types, he seems very, very effective. 3-1 and 3 on the Renekton right now, 185 CS compared to his opponent's 153. The Camille just not doing a lot so far this game for Team Liquid.
Yep. The Camille definitely takes a long time to come online, and then it can deal with those backliners. It could be very handy later on, but right now, TL are kind of looking at 6,000 gold deficit at 20 minutes. It's looking pretty grim for them right now, but they do scale pretty well with the Vladimir and having the Camille, whereas Renekton will fall off at some point. And Lourlo, this is risky because I don't think he has the damage yet.
Lourlo's looking to fight Froggen if he can. Froggen getting himself out of the heal from Lourlo, but now Froggen is caught out. Gonna be using the charm, trying to buy himself some time. Here comes Gate looking to show up and keep him alive. Not gonna be able to do it. Froggen looking to make the play and get himself in Gate's belly, but instead they're both just gonna be going straight into the jaws of defeat. Lourlo and Team Liquid grab themselves 2 for 0. Froggen tried to flash over to Gate so he could eat him.
That might be Baron.
Akaadian looking for Youngbin. Not going to be able to find him. Youngbin gets himself over the wall.
Yep, just providing threat, doing something, because they all were pinging Baron and running past it. They have the Kha'Zix, but Akaadian was still up, and he dove Youngbin, who was having to clear out the young mid lane.
The young mid lane for Youngbin. At least he didn't get himself killed by that Rengar. But that was just poor Froggen, man. He even blows the flash, trying to get close to the
He's like, eat me!
Eat me now! But it doesn't work out. Gate just ends up not being able to do anything with it. Echo Fox drops 2. Liquid at least finds themselves a little bit of reprieve from the situation that has been nothing but Echo Fox successes up until that point.
I wasn't watching the minimap on that previous play. It looked like Lourlo was just trying to go for a 1v1, a man's duel. But it's a team game. I forget that all the time.
Yeah, sometimes you just want to man fight the guy in Baron Pit, and then he actually brought his whole team into the brush beside
Not fair!
Yeah! You said 1v1!
But threw down the Hextech ultimatum, and it gave enough time that Froggen couldn't escape. You can't use Ahri dash or anything like that to get out. It'll stop it on the edge. And he tried desperately, but it still wasn't helping him.
Spirit Visage now done on Looper's Renekton, so he's going to be that much more resilient against the magic damage coming out from his opponents, most of which will be from Vlad, but also some from Karma. The Vlad also, with the Abyssal Scepter and the Proto Belt done, means that if he can get himself onto Keith, or if he does get a chance to do some damage to Froggen, it is going to have quite a punch behind it.
Yeah, it's definitely going to have a large punch behind it. The question, though, is, how long is this punch from Echo Fox actually going to last with that Renekton? He's most of their gold lead with 2,000 gold up over the Camille, but the Camille definitely makes better use of that gold as you hit mid-late game.
Absolutely. Renekton's kind of got one of those timers on him. You've got to make the most use of it out of your Renekton as quickly as you can.
He's done a good job so far.
Yeah, absolutely has. Absolutely has. We're still only 23 minutes into the game. We're not in the hyper late game by any means. But Fox has to keep that in mind.
And you think about Echo Fox and their issues were closing games out quickly and shot calling from ahead to the point where they can just get these inhibitor turrets down, get these tier 2s down, because they have a large lead, but they're still not cracking these tier 2s. And if Baron's the way that they're even going to get to these tier 2 turrets, that's a little ridiculous. It seems like they can't play the map to this higher level.
Right, the tier 2 turrets, sometimes you see teams stall out a little bit going towards those, but it shouldn't be something that requires Baron to break. It's not like the inhibitor line where you have an entire wall and then just a slight path through it.
Especially when you have a fed Renekton who's a big split pusher. He should be able to 1v1 something like a Camille at this point in the game. He has the Rift Herald buff.
Echo Fox just not seeming to be able to find what they need here 24 minutes in.
So what's going to happen here is TL are actually going for the top lane, and they're sacrificing Mountain Drake positioning over to Echo Fox, which would be Echo Fox's third Drake of the game. And I like this. I like how Youngbin, or sorry, Keith is going to go for mid alongside Gate, and they're going to get priority there in exchange for that top lane, which just got instantly cleared out by Looper.
Good decision from Echo Fox, getting a chance to find some damage onto this turret. Akaadian should be more than capable of soloing this Drake down by himself. This Team Liquid will not be able to find their mark there in the top side as they wanted to, but you mentioned that they give up Drake priority, but that's not a fight they ever wanted to take anyway, obviously, with being so far behind in the fights, just never going their way up until this point, so you can't fault them for wanting to find something else instead.
Yeah, I do think that TL probably put too many people top looking for the dive when it wasn't going to happen, because Looper just walks up afterwards, and that could have been a tier 2 going down if Echo Fox had a minion wave mid.
Now all they got's that one poor little minion with a Scryer's Bloom on his head, and he already got shot. Minion life is rough life. Constantly running down the lane only to get yourself killed by a bunch of massive AoE abilities usually.
It's a metaphor for real life.
Wow, okay, we got a little bit deep here. That's a little bit too deep for a Game 1 cast, man. You gotta save that at least for the Game 3.
Some of us are just, you know, melee minions. Some of us are born with different talents.
I was born a melee minion, man.
We were born casters.
Oh, fun. Yeah, audience agrees with me. No. No. Akaadian grabbing himself the Gromp. Pretty threatening right now on this Rengar. Got himself the Serrated Dirk, the Null Magic Mantle in his inventory. He says that he's going to be looking for the Edge of Night next. Popping the ultimate, looking to go top, looking for Piglet, finding some nice bursts initially. Gate is here as well. Froggen going to be showing up too. Lourlo looking to join the fight, keep his mid laner alive if he can. Going to be taken down below half HP, forced to flash away. Looper into the middle of 3, still looking to make the moves if he can. Lourlo going to be killed now as Youngbin jumps himself over the wall. ReignOver trying to kite back, utilizing the power of the Void Spikes, but Echo Fox, having picked off the enemy top laner, taking the enemy mid down to a critical state, now has to find something off the back of it.
Yep, Piglet's going to back, get himself healthy, and start running back down the mid lane here. He would be there, wave clear. I like that ReignOver went for the evolved Void Spikes, the Spike Racks. Is going to slow everybody down and stop them from even disengaging or engaging onto something like a Vladimir, which you just need to buy time for. And Piglet, man, he was like using ease in that last fight that he didn't have to, and he was looking for Qs constantly and kind of panic ultied as well. We'll see.
Echo Fox go back in to take down that control ward that they almost got just a moment ago. Piglet popping a Sanguine Pool to stay away from Looper, who you can see by the green glow around his mouth was ready to stun him if he got the chance.
Yep. Looks like Akaadian popping the ulti just to see who's around. The zoning ultimate here onto the turret. You never saw it coming.
Right back into the turret. At least it wasn't a blast cone.
Definitely. Higher priority objective is that tier 2 turret. Jumps in, zoned off everybody who was behind it. And now they're going to take it back here, but that's right on top of a ward.
Froggen gets himself out of the way of the True Shot Barrage, has to find a little bit safer of a spot to back. I really do like the Arcade Ahri back animation too, how she jumps into the arcade game.
I like how she's moving while she's playing it too, because
she gets into it, man.
I know so many people that play like first-person shooters and they move in real life and they dodge
with the controller. That's part of playing the game.
Yeah, it helps you so much.
ReignOver and Matt in position now near the Baron pit to clear out some vision, add some vision, do whatever they need to do to play the information game to the best of their ability, because 28 minutes into the match, a one fight could definitely lead to a Baron as the trophy for it.
Yep. And TL, it feels like being 6K behind still hasn't really amounted to too much more. The tier 2 finally went down mid, but TL, I don't know if this is enough of a gold deficit for them so that Echo Fox can be comfortable with this game.
Piglet at least finally got Team Liquid on the board in terms of turrets. 28 minutes into the game, that is their first objective, neutral or otherwise. They still have no Drakes, but at least they've got a turret now. It's still going to be a long way up.
Yeah, what I've been noticing from Piglet is he's actually quite a good mid laner when we're looking at things like his kills and his decision making, because Piglet kind of always split pushed as an AD carry when he was behind. He always went for flanks around Baron as an AD carry. It was really strange, but those tendencies actually are good on a mid laner, especially something like Vladimir that wants to be in the backline, wants to ghost, get in and pop E's on them. So I think that this change is actually working out for TL in terms of having a mid laner that's going to be aggressive and come up with a pretty decent scoreline. It's just the rest of the team playing around that has been a bit of a struggle. We talked about Youngbin seems to be in a bit of a deficit and a liability, but this game it was Lourlo on that pick that got countered in the top side, and then he was exploited. He got ganked a few times and had to back off the turret.
Fox trying to get some damage onto the tier 2 and top side. Won't be able to find a ton of it, just barely grazing it before the True Shot Barrage clears out the wave and scares them all back. Very little HP remaining on the tier 2 in bottom lane for the time being. That one down to about 1/5 of its HP. So Echo Fox will have a chance if they can manage to get just a couple of seconds of firing time on that to grab themselves another objective. But you can see their eyes constantly trending towards this Baron too the entire time. They know this is what's going to open up so many more possibilities.
Yeah, there's no vision here either. And no blue trinket for Piglet for a little bit. Ooh, okay. Froggen gave it away a little bit. Yeah, he was trying to go for a charm there, trying to go for a pick. Lourlo shoved out the bottom side. Now they see Looper there, so now they're going to push mid, try to get mid turret. But this could be a bait.
Be the collapse. Echo Fox rotating Looper up here without the teleport. He doesn't even have it available for the next few seconds still. Rengar ultimate going to be popped. Edge of Night is there as well. Akaadian ready to maybe jump in if he has to. Arrow's going to come through, find its way onto Matt. Still looking to make the plays, and he is done so. Akaadian going to be killed now by Looper. Almost. The Hextech ultimatum gets the job done. Looper getting himself away, but can Piglet and the rest of Team Liquid say the same? Piglet's not going to be doing it. Double kill for Looper. Here comes the Tahm Kench, looking to make the move if he can over the wall. Can't quite do it. Youngbin going to be kiting back, trying to get himself away from this Kench, but Echo Fox has found their fight, and they are going to find the enemy mid lane inhibitor.
Yeah, Akaadian starts that one off on the right foot, jumps in after the arrow from Keith had hit Matt. Piglet ducked down into his Sanguine pool, and now they get that middle inhibitor and middle turret, and they crack the base.
Even though Akaadian dies for it, the setup was great.
Yeah, it's Camille at that 2-item spike, where she has the Titanic and the Trinity Force. Matt gets blown up, and then the exhaust on Akaadian as he's trying to retreat. He almost gets out, but stopped by Lourlo there. And then Lourlo gets out, but now Piglet doesn't live long enough for his ultimate to actually give him HP back. It was almost there, but Looper just does so much damage at this point in the game. And there's been just pretty consistent Renekton buffs over time, doing like his ultimate and things like that. You know, he's turning into a champion that needs to be feared, especially when he snowballs in professional play.
Yeah, a few little buffs here and there. They all feel a little insignificant. It's like, oh man, what'd they buff this for? This didn't do anything. But after you add up 4 or 5 of those over the course of a few patch cycles, it's like, wait a second. Renekton's way stronger than the last time we saw a lot of Renekton. And Looper is showing us exactly what that champion is capable of this game. Now with Dead Man's Plate completed as his 3rd full item, he's going to be that much faster and get into the backline that much more easily.
Yeah, and he's going for a Titanic Hydra next, which is going to give him so much damage, especially when you W and it applies on hits multiple times. If there's anybody behind it, he just annihilates them. He clears minion waves so quickly to boot. And it just ends up being an incredibly scary champion. 5-1-4. Tied for highest kill participation on the team is a top lane Renekton.
And that was also the final elemental Drake of the game, the 3rd mountain going to Echo Fox. So if they get a chance on either the Baron or any of these turrets, they're just going to cut through them like butter. Liquid has to be aware of that. They know that everything from this point on has to be a very clean execution if they want to stop the imminent Fox victory.
Yeah, it's about 7,000 gold advantage for Echo Fox, but those 3 Mountain Drakes are worth so much, with Elder Dragon being the next one that's on the table, and the Baron being up right now. This is just... Looper could go back to splitting. They have so many options. he could just
jumps into the wave, presses Q, presses T, and everything's dead.
It's like you could go top, and now you have a Renekton with triple Mountain Drake killing turrets. His Rift Herald buff is about to expire in a minute or two, and you can just get complete control of this area. He can walk in.
He can just do this,
what is it,
walk into 5 people, doesn't even care too much about it. Damage going to be coming in from over the wall. Piglet going to be forced to pull, getting himself away. ReignOver is going to be popped almost instantaneously. Piglet going to be targeted next. Froggen looking to make the damage happen there. The chain CC comes out, and he is going to be going down. Lourlo issues the Hex Tech ultimatum, but immediately forced to retreat. Akaadian going to be spit right back out, exhausted, but it will not matter. Matt's going to be dropping, Youngbin's going to be dropping, and Echo Fox is popping off. They're looking to end this game. They've got everything they need. 14-5. Team Liquid with one man standing to somehow pull off a miracle.
Yeah, Lourlo doesn't really have anything left either.
Hey, he's got a tactical sweep. You just
give him a little dance.
Yeah, show him what you're made of. Give him the moves.
Oh, didn't even get his E on the Nexus.
Those are not the moves we were talking about, but they're exactly what Echo Fox was looking for. That's game 1 going their way. They'll take a 1-0 lead in this series.
Echo Fox, quite good there from beginning to end, and I think Looper counter matchup top lane, 7-1-7 at the end of the game. Only missed out on 1 unassisted kill there. And Keith also backed him up pretty heavily too. So Echo Fox, we were looking at Froggen saying this guy is playing well in the mid lane. He did play well in their previous set, but we were looking at the rest of the team because Looper didn't have a good showing previously, but this one was solid.
And Keith had some really good arrows, too. We saw the arrows find their way onto Youngbin, onto ReignOver, onto multiple different people. And those setups, like you saw in the fight in mid lane, were the green light for the rest of the team to be able to go in and seize the opportunity.
Exactly. Those arrows definitely started a lot of those fights, but then the TP from Looper were actually in really good positions. And the Renekton is something that's still kind of risky. It has been buffed over time. The Black Cleaver changes did help him out as well, but I think it's a solid pick for Looper, especially just like the Singe, just like something that's going to cause that backline threat.
It just seems stylistically to match so perfect with what Looper wants to do, diving into the backline and making that huge impact.
And I think that's the interesting thing, because when a tank dives in, it's like, oh man, just ignore that guy, or, you know, soak damage into him while you can. But sometimes you'll ignore the tank, and it keeps threat off of Keith when there's this gigantic thing that takes so much damage to kill, like a Singed or Renekton, and it's actually killing your carries, right?
Yeah.
So it's a big thing that they have to worry about, but for Looper, it does look like it's a good fit.
Well, for a deeper dive into that game itself, let's check in with the analysts.
Thank you very much. Great cast today so far. I'm once again joined by Mark, and we're going to talk about Echo Fox winning pretty handily over Liquid here.
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty, not decisive game where, like, they crushed them and it was like a stomp, but there was never a moment where you could really look at Team Liquid and say that they were in a good position. And I think it basically started in the draft for me, where things were looking okay. They were setting up some kind of split push comp with Camille. Sure, they got countered a little with the Renekton pick. You have the Ezreal to kind of survive its lane on its own, and it's kind of crutching on this last pick, counter pick that you're saving for Piglet, and then he goes Vladimir, which doesn't do much. In lane, it doesn't do much for the team comp. At best, it just survives Echo Fox's team comp when you really want some kind of high damage wave clear mid laner to give your Camille time to get online.
And I want to kind of dive into that part a bit because in general, I agree. I think there's a devil's advocate point to play here, which is that you're against Echo Fox, and you just saw them play up against C9 where, like, they hard camped with Akaadian on a Froggen's lane. If you're like, the only way Echo Fox wins, air quotes, is if they hard camp mid lane, let's play someone with Sanguine Pool so that I won't die. Now, of course, they still lost, and you can see it didn't play out, and the teammates maybe are the reason, or Loopers maybe the reason for this one, but I can understand the thought process if it was that thought process of, let's try to deny a win condition and try to outplay them as a squad.
Sure, you can argue Echo Fox is notoriously getting weaker if they don't get a big lead, so you say, let's just survive, we'll take some CS deficits, and then that's all we need, and we'll be fine. But you're not C9, you're Team Liquid, and I think you need to put up a bigger fight in the early game and actually try and contest them from getting their lead, because I think once Echo Fox gets the lead, they're not like substantially worse than you, that they're going to lose games like that. So I think going for the Vladimir pick, it's weak in lane. It doesn't help your team fights, team comp that much, and then all it does is kind of survive their early game plan.
Yeah, so we can actually talk about the fact that they were getting outplayed in the mid to late game. I still saw mistakes, a lot of them from Youngbin. Our first replay is a 3-for-1 that goes Echo Fox's way plus a Drake, and if it's the one I'm thinking of, there's some pretty silly things that come out of Youngbin here. Okay, Arrow just blows up Matt, and it's already a bad start.
Right, and Youngbin, it's actually not that bad for TL at this point. They can kite back, grouped up here. ReignOver overextends a little bit, but he has this flash to get
flashes
out.
the wall.
Right, and Youngbin flashes
and
the
just
wall.
dies.
ReignOver, as the assassin with the ultimate to go stealthy and stuff, has more tools to go a little deep. Youngbin doesn't. He already arcane shifted, he flashes in, puts himself in a bad position. They could have just focused down gate and kited back and tried to reestablish that fight again. You have the Ezreal poke, you don't need to go so all in. Big mistake there after by Team Liquid, and then they never really bounce back. You see that gold graph just starts spiking after that fight.
Yeah, and it wasn't the 10-minute mark where they were winning the game. It was pretty chill for a while. It was the fact that they were winning these team fights and getting farther ahead. And we talked about it a bit at the very beginning of the game, but Looper on the Renekton, counterpicks the Camille. We gave him player of the game for this one because, honestly, he did a lot of the heavy lifting. He smashed his matchup one-on-one. We know Lourlo can be a top competitor. Looper clearly outclassed him, heavy minion leads, got a lot of kills overall. I mean, he was one of those big backline divers. And as the caster was saying, if he's playing something a bit more proactive, something that can kind of just flank and do damage on his own, seems to look better for Looper.
Yeah, I think if you put Looper in a situation where he doesn't need the help of his team, if he's not stuck on a tank or something like that, or a matchup that needs the jungle pressure, sure, Renekton uses it well, but you don't necessarily need to go to the Renekton's lane. Same way with the Singe, it kind of just runs around and creates havoc. I think he seems to be best on those kinds of champions, Swain being another one like that. And he also had good TP flanks over the course of this game too, so he won his lane, then was able to transition it to other points over the course of the game.
Yeah, so good stuff for EchoFox right now. And again, a game they could win without having to smash the first 8 minutes of the game, although it is against Liquid, who's in 9th. It's not exactly a big test for them. So let's move forward and think about how the rest of the series plays out and think about the players. Piglet, 4 champs in 4 games. He's 2-2 on them, but hey, at least he's showing he has a champion pool, even if it's just a sanguine pool. But Youngbin, I think, still looks criminally bad.
Yeah, I think you have a big problem in the bot lane. I think there's some stuff you can do macro-wise to maybe try and set him up to get him out of lane early, start going for those turret trades around, you know, the 6-minute mark.
Yeah, the 6 minute, the buff drops, just start trading
as soon as
objectives.
that's done, just trade the turrets, get him out of lane. Maybe you can put him mid lane after you drop a couple turret trades. You can look at some of that macro stuff, but it does feel very bad to have to be making these kinds of decisions because of player deficits as opposed to this is what's best for us currently.
Absolutely. So we'll see if Liquid can shape up, or if EchoFox makes it a 2-0 and gets a nice win in the books for them as they're still in that playoff run, or we'll see if Liquid can improve. We're headed for a quick break. Game 2 comes up between EchoFox and Liquid after this, so stick around. Don't touch that browser. LCS returns in a few minutes.
Birthday boy, Aiden, Zirene, Moon. We're here to celebrate, man. We're going to have a good time. This one's kind of broke, but we still got 2 of them. Oh, you have 2? I got 2 of them. Did you blow on both? Yeah. Akaadian gonna be burned out, tries to jump himself back over the wall, can't quite find the damage. First blood over to the Blood King himself.
Watch me.
I'm low in the back. I'm coming.
That's Ezreal. Fine, Ezreal.
Camille. Good job. Back away. Nice.
He's gonna be killed now by Looper. Almost. The Hextech ultimatum gets the job done. Looper getting himself away, but can Piglet and the rest of Team Liquid say the same? Piglet's not gonna be doing it. Double kill for Looper. Immediately forced to retreat. Akaadian gonna be spit right back out, exhausted, but it will not matter. Matt's gonna be dropping. Youngbin's gonna be dropping, and EchoFox is popping off.